Welcome to the CEO of Destiny podcast, where you will find the tools to fulfill the purpose of your generation and wildly succeed in the marketplace. And now your host, Andre J. Benjamin.
Welcome to the CEO of Destiny podcast. I'm your host, Andre J. Benjamin, and I am delighted to come to you on this amazing day. This, of course, is the day that who has made? The Lord. Yes, and we are rejoicing and we are glad in this day, which means we are delighted. We are excited. We are blown away by the goodness, the radiance, the mastery, the magnificence. I don't know how many more M words I can give the Father, but we're excited about this. This is a podcast that helps people to identify with clarity how they can give God a return on the investment of a lifetime, because God is your greatest investor. Your Father up in heaven, your source up in heaven designed you. It's a firm belief of mine. It's why I live. It's why I do. It's why I have my being. I live and move and have my being in Him, as some ancient poets had said. So we really want to come together today and really speak on this episode about a couple of ways that we can continue on in our journey of bringing God a return on His investment. And today I'm going to talk about, do you know the weather? Are you able to determine the weather? Are you a good atmospheric expert, right? Are you a person that can determine? I'm going to give a couple of principles out, and I want to figure out who are you in this whole, atmosphere analysis, right? What do I mean by atmosphere? I mean, are you able to tell what's going on in the climate around you? Are you what do they say? Are you a thermometer, or are you the one who sets the temperature, right? Are you are you a thermometer, or are you the one that sets the temperature? Which I'm losing it at this moment, but I think you get what I mean. If I had a dictionary in front of me, I know exactly what I was saying. But are you a person that is the reactive one that steps into an atmosphere? Are you the person that goes in and that you change the atmosphere? I believe that the Lord is called for those that know Him and that walk in a relationship with Him, especially when it comes to business. Every business owner knows that when they are dealing with rendering a product, a good, and a service, when you're formulating your team, with your friendships, with your relationships, with your business transactions, with the commerce that you're engaged in, you need to have a great attitude, and you need to be able to not be one who just responds, but one who sets the pace, right? Luke 10, when Jesus sent His disciples out, He sent them out and He gave them authority over all types of sickness and over evil spirits. And He said, go into an environment. He said, don't take any money with you, because I'm expecting the people that you go minister to be able to bring life and come alongside of you, right? And He also said this interesting thing. He said, when you enter into a household, He said, release your shalom into that place. Go in as lambs among wolves and release your shalom into that atmosphere. This is a very, very powerful principle, one that I have done and one that I have seen tremendous breakthrough, tremendous shift in people's demeanors. You have that ability. You are the highest spiritual authority, no matter what place you find yourself in. If you are employee number 79 or employee number 7,090 or you're 550, you're the employee number 20. I don't care where you are on the scale. If you are the only believer in that place, you are the only spirit-filled one that is full of the Ruach HaKodesh, the holy presence of the Lord, and you love Him with all your heart, then you are the highest spiritual authority in that environment. So you have the right to come in there, and when you step into an environment, you say, you know what? Simple. You walk in, you don't have to announce it to everyone, but you go in and you say, Father, I just release your shalom in this place. I release the shalom upon my life, the shalom of the Lord, of the owner, into this place. You release it into every cubicle. You release it into every workstation. You release it onto every piece of factory equipment. You release it into every aspect of your business. You literally invite heaven to come in. You literally invite the kingdom of the Most High to come into your environment and have dominion, domination, mastery, rulership. So that's number one, is be an atmospheric expert. I remember going into atmosphere and being able to sense them as a kid. I didn't understand. I can walk into a room and I could feel the anger. I could walk into another room, I could feel confusion. I could walk into another room and I could feel the gossipy, the backbiting nature, the people being dissatisfied, comparing themselves. I could walk into another room and feel the insecurity. I could walk into another room and feel that slimy perversion or lust. I could walk into atmospheres and I could sense the atmosphere. But I thought that I had to stop right there. I didn't. I had the ability to say, Father, I bind up every unclean thing and I loose your presence into this place right now. You know what this atmosphere needs, so I release the shalom of the Lord into this place. I invite you to do it. I dare you to do it. I dare you to step into that place and be able to release the shalom in, right? So be an atmosphere expert. What are some things that can aid you in this atmosphere control? You can purchase music that is anointed of the Lord. Did you know that there is instrumental music where people who pour their heart out, they worship the Lord in spirit and truth. They are yielded to the lordship of Messiah Yeshua, and they pour out their heart over the music, over their instruments. You have that ability to go and to purchase that resource and that tool and see heaven open right where you're at. You could be in your car, you could be in your cubicle, you can be in your office, you could be on the move. But you take it and put it in your earbuds, and you do whatever it takes to allow that atmosphere to come over you, and you release that same atmosphere into the place that you're at. So I challenge you to start being a person who's not reactive to the atmosphere, but who is proactive and who is shifting the atmosphere. Why? Because our Lord gives it. He gives us the command. You better believe when he goes into a place, he goes into a city, and the people hated him. Yeah, it said that sometimes they were about to throw him off a cliff, but then it said they got their hands off of him and they could not seize him because it was not yet his time. I believe that was because it wasn't his time, but I believe he also, before he went into an environment, he practiced, he preached what he practiced. He released the shalom of God over that place. So he says, you know what? The atmosphere is mine. The atmosphere doesn't belong to someone else. So I challenge you to become an atmospheric expert. I challenge you to, and how can you do this? Principle number 2 is have a mind shift. Romans 12:1 says, be ye transformed. I admonish you by the mercies of God to offer your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, pleasing, and acceptable unto God, which is a reasonable act of service. In Romans 12:2, we know this. Be transformed. Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by what? Renewing your mind, which means going back and getting your new mind. Coming back and getting back into the Word, getting back into the Torah, the instructions of the Lord, Genesis to Revelation. Unlocking that, letting it pour over your spirit, letting it sharpen you, let it divide between your soul and your spirit, between your motives and your intents, and letting the pure you come to the forefront, allowing your mind to be subjected to the truth of the word versus all the opinions out there. So I love getting on Twitter just like anybody else, but Twitter can dominate your narrative and can tell you what the general narrative is and doesn't tell you what heaven's narrative is. You can get on Instagram, Facebook, you can get on YouTube, you can get on Snapchat, you can get on every new nook and cranny that is before you and allow yourself to be moved by atmospheres, or you can be one who shifts the atmosphere. So that comes with having a mind reprogramming, a mind shift. That's principle number 2, is a mind shift. So I want to focus on those 2 principles this week. I want you to become an atmospheric expert. I want you to challenge yourself to say, I'm not going to go into and just sense the atmosphere. Some of you are empaths. Some of you have a gift of empathy, and you can walk into a place and you can feel the atmosphere. You can feel the emotions there. Well, don't just feel it. Release what you want in that atmosphere. Release his shalom. Try it, because he says it. Luke 10, go back and review Luke 10, when he gave authority to the disciples to go out, and they went out and they did it, and they came back with mighty testimonies. He, as a matter of fact, said, they said, man, we can't believe it. Even the spirits healed to the name. When we go out there, we have authority over them. He says, look, don't marvel at that. He said, I saw Satan fall like lightning. And I believe that he was speaking of that as they were going out doing what they were doing, as they were going into city by city, and as they were going and expanding the gospel of the kingdom into those regions, he saw the enemy dislodged out of the air because he's the prince of the power of the air. So much in the atmosphere you can feel. I want you to analyze and take captive every hollow and deceptive thought and make it under subjection of God. I want you to pay attention to when thoughts creep into your mind that aren't even your thoughts, that aren't even your narrative. When you were just doing well, you were having a great day, and you might have saw a billboard and something creeps into your mind that makes you think, what if I have this type of ailment or this type of, that's not from the Lord? Or all of a sudden perversion comes. Whatever it may be, confusion, insecurity, something pours into your mind because you are being suggested. Well, that was one of the most powerful things that a mentor of mine told me. He said that every thought that is in your head is not yours. So I want you to be an atmospheric expert, and I want you to focus on shifting your mind this week. I want you to focus on shifting your mind back to the new mind and away from the old mind. This is my encouragement. This is my challenge to you. I want to say I love you. Do us a favor. If this has been beneficial to you, go and leave us a review on wherever you're listening. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you're listening on iTunes, I appreciate the reviews that I see coming in, and I encourage you to do more. Please subscribe. Let others know about it. If you hated the podcast, let's keep it our secret. Don't tell a soul. But if you love the podcast, I need you to spread it like it's viral. Let everybody know about it. Until next week, I want to release a prayer over you. Father, I just thank you for touching, blessing, keeping, making your face shine upon, lifting up your countenance towards, being gracious and granting to the shalom of God every single listener, no matter where they are, morning, noon, and night, no matter what time zone, what language they hear this podcast in, or they're receiving it in, even if they're having it translated and transcribed. Father, I pray that it would penetrate and pierce their hearts. You know the desires of their heart. I pray for the prosperity of every business that gives you honor, and every person that is yielding their life to give you a return on the investment that you've made, for you are their greatest investor. And we thank you for these things in Jesus' mighty name, Yeshua's mighty name. Let it be so. So don't be a slacker. Remember, you are an atmospheric expert. Don't look for the weather. Pray in the weather. Hey, Brother Elijah, don't get me on another trail about Elijah. We'll talk about that another time. But until next time, shalom, shalom. Be blessed.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do us a favor. If this was useful in any way for you, please go to iTunes and leave us a review. Reviews will allow others to easily discover the podcast. If you'd like more information and to receive a free download, rediscover your destiny, go to ceoofdestiny.com. Thanks again, and tune in next time.